Hey everyone, Chris Timm here from Sundela Consulting. Following on from our very successful first Halo PSA user group that we had in London on the 25th of April, the following video is from one of the members who attended. He is talking about using elastic reporting with Halo. So how they've leveraged the API to design something that actually gives them all of the reports that they want and gives them all of the information through this open source elastic reporting engine. So I'm going to play that video after this. If you want any more information, I will put them in the comments below. And if you want to know anything more about our Halo PSA user groups, you can find some information below at halopsausergroup.com. I will also make a video straight after this, which I'll link to up here somewhere, that will talk all about how to join the community, that kind of thing. So look forward to seeing you on the next video, and thank you very much for watching.
What, 3 times? Welcome again, anyone that's listening on the online. I'll introduce you. I'm going to talk a bit first about our PSA journey, because I think it helps to understand why we're doing what we're doing, and why we're going to such lengths to get what we want out of Halo. So we're going to be talking about elastic reporting. Has anyone heard of elastic? No? Good. That's sort of good. We're showing you something new. That's great. Next slide. I've done that bit. Synergy. You know who Synergy are now. Has anyone heard of Synergy actually before you came here today? No, so we're not doing something very well.
I have.
Yeah, great.
Well, I've met you before, so obviously.
Yes. Yeah. So we so this is part of our community outreach. We do quite a bit of MSP community outreach stuff. We really believe in the community here, so we this is one of them, and we also host Tech Tribe. Anyone a member of Tech Tribe? Yeah. Yeah, good. So if you come along to the West London one, it's here. The East London one is at ConnectWise.
Yes, it's true.
So don't go to that. So, or do if you're over that. We started on ConnectWise. Synergy was we were on ConnectWise for a year. Spent quite a lot of money on professional services getting it all set up for us. But from day 30, we realised it probably wasn't the right decision actually, and it was we found it clunky, and it was just felt for a tech company very old-fashioned, and so it sort of wasn't doing our internal PR any good, that we're hiring people and then showing them this what looked like quite an old-fashioned system when we're hiring people who are technically minded and sort of naturally quite progressive and modern. And so quite early on, we took the decision to start looking around for a new PSA tool, and we came across Halo. We looked at some of the other ones, came across Halo. And the reason we really like Halo is its extensibility. So it wasn't, it's great that it works on React. Everyone loves React, and it's really nice to use. It looks good on pretty much any screen. The buttons and the fields are where you expect them to be, but it was about how it worked with our other applications. And so I firmly believe that the future of tech and SaaS products isn't one system to rule them all, because what you tend to get is the jack of all trades saying, where and ConnectWise to a certain extent sort of testament to that. It tries to do everything, but doesn't really get it well enough. And so we took the decision to change to a best product angle. And so we use HubSpot for our CRM because it's, in my opinion, the best CRM system. And there's other applications that we use which are best in product for those things. And so at that point, it became this sort of the decision was which system were we going to use to be the center of that and be the hub to that wheel. And Halo's API was vital to that. because the fact that it already had all these integrations, although anyone that tried to work with them will see that they're sometimes a bit limited, but they have integrations, they're really open with their API, and they play well with others, you know, and that's something we didn't experience as much in the past. So we decided to go onto Halo, and we started the journey. One decision I did make at that point was that, well, if we're going to be linking and working with APIs, who the hell is going to do that? Because, yeah, we've got a tech company with technical people in it, but I haven't got someone who's a genius with code and APIs sitting around doing nothing. They're all serving clients. And so we took the decision to hire a platform developer, and calling it a platform developer, it's not a coder, because it's not someone who's just going to sit and pore over code all day. It's someone who is actually there to make sure that that application speaks to that application. And that is Jake. And so we hired Jake 3 months ago as a platform engineer. And he comes from a dev background, and also we've worked together for years in the advertising world. And so Jake is, his job is to get all of our systems, all of the different systems that we use, and sew them all together into something that works really well. And each part of that tends to be, we try to make it best in breed for what it sets out to do. And so over to Jake.
Sure, thanks. So we decided to use Elastic for our reporting. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with this. This is the current dashboard that we use. It's the built-in SQL-based reporting, which is great, and we've been using it to good success. And it's got all the stats you could want, and you can drill down per client, and it's basically it's all there. But we got to the point where we reached the ceiling of what this can do. It was quite rigid in the sense that if you want to change something, you have to rewrite the SQL, create a new report, and then update the dashboard. And it's just wasn't that flexible. So we needed something that was a bit more flexible, and something that could actually show the data in a nicer looking format and actually present it better. And because there is loads of data, we have loads of data, and Halo creates that on a daily basis. So to do that, I looked at the APIs. There was no real native integration, so we basically decided to build our own. So luckily, the documentation that Halo provide for the APIs is actually quite good. And so we spent some time working through these and extracting the data using just simple Postman, and getting the data and actually working through it and working out exactly what it is we want to do with this data and which part of the which API we want to use the data from. So once we got to the point where we worked out what we wanted to do, it was a case of creating an application. So I wrote an application that basically sits on our systems that polls the APIs at Halo every 5 minutes. And it's specifically using these ones here. And it's pulling live JSON data. So every ticket that gets logged, every action, every invoice, every site that gets updated, every client that gets updated or created gets pulled back to our servers. At that point, we then process that data and then push that onto Elastic. Elastic is basically set up using different indexes, and it treats every record as such as a document. So we created an index for each type of data format. So we've got an index for tickets, an index for actions, invoices, sites, etc., etc. But the data that came from Halo was huge, massive, in the sense that the JSON files were, well, as an example, the tickets are 2,000 fields. So it's just tons of data, and it was too much to process. So to get around that, we created a template. So I built a template and just put the fields in it that I wanted. And then what that allows me to do is every time we pull a ticket from the API, it then goes through a filter which basically extracts the fields that we need and then passes that on to the Elastic server. What this allows you to do is actually, if you want to reduce this down, add or take out a field, you can just literally adjust the template, and on the fly it will actually change the data that's coming from Halo. So what do we do with the data? I'm just going to show you actually what we did with it. This is a live demo. So
Dreaded live demo.
hoping it's going to work. So I've had to unfortunately.
Really well.
Why am I doing that later? I hope it fails a little bit so that when mine fails.
Make it fail.
So this is basically an example of an index within Elastic. It's kind of like the back end, as it were. So for the purpose of the demo, I've actually had to remove a fair bit of data because the personal information is in there, ticket information, and client contact details. But essentially, these fields are the fields that we've chosen. So this is a live view of tickets being logged at the moment. This updates every 5 minutes. So you've got like a ticket ID, who logged the ticket, when the last action was, how it came in, the age of the ticket. So this one's 4 minutes old, site ID. And over here, this will update later on with actual geolocation data, which is long lapse basically of the person who's logged the ticket. You'll see why that's important later. So this is an example of a dashboard. As you can see, it's kind of presented in a nicer way. It actually allows us, I'll just scroll down and see. It actually allows us to see a lot more in-depth detail. So we've got here closed tickets, who's closed the tickets. This is basically the service desk. So these are all the guys on the service desk. The colors represent the type of ticket that they're closed. And up here, you've got open versus closed. So obviously the green is good. But this is basically showing a complete overview of the entire service desk.
I think what's important here is that you can do quite a bit of this stuff in Halo if you write a SQL. Right? You can grab a load of data and you can make a graph and things like that. But we found this to be so much more, because effectively it's just a data lake behind this, and then we choose the data that we want to inspect without a SQL command, because it's got the data in the background, and then we can create these and slice and dice them in whatever way we want really quickly, really quickly. This is actually closed tickets data, and this is for KPIs that we run on one of the service desk teams, one of the service desk teams in the UK. What it allows us to do is it shows us it splits up this is how many tickets were closed that day, and then who has closed them, right? So Nisha has closed probably the most here. And it's also got things like medium ticket age at close. That's how long that ticket was with us. So from open to close, how long did that take? And that's one of our KPIs. We want them to be really short tickets. You know, the ideal ticket, one that arrives with us, we close it straight away, resell something. We don't want any tickets that are lasting for ages and ages. And we had to do some manipulation with that because there is some data that comes through for things like QuickTime tickets and project tickets. We don't want to see those here. That's not important. And so we were able to really easily, I say really easily, Jake did it, manipulate that data and ensure that what we're seeing here is really quite accurate. And because people are being judged, because this is KPIs for individuals, it's vital that we get this stuff right. So yeah, and then the other stuff, you scroll down, Jake. It's also got things like that where, you know, what the categories are for the stuff that's being closed. That's important to us as well, not necessarily for our KPIs, but it's important that we know where we're spending all this time and what we're doing. But the other thing it does is, Jake's probably going to show you, is it allows you to drill down into the data. And so now we can see that that's just Jonathan's data, right? So So he's awesome. We know Jonathan's awesome. This is what he's been doing. These are his closed tickets and open tickets over time. If you scroll up, we're able to do that. You can drill down and drill down and drill down. That's natural. We haven't had to code any of that, do anything. It's built into Elastic. We're just giving it data. We're just telling it what we want to see. So when you start a journey of, if we looked at all the tickets that Synergy does, for thousands, over 2 years, we can start to drill down, and drilling down is just clicking. Click down, you get to figure out. We found the other day, why are there 2,000 tickets opened in 2021? Because it's all the test data that Halo gave us, and they never deleted it. And being able to see those sort of, it's really difficult to see in Halo, all that sort of just junk data that's in there, without this sort of tool where you can really see it and visualize.
Just out of interest, because obviously one of the things I like about the drill down, and I've been familiar with Power BI for obviously a number of years.
Right.
I get the impression that Halo are working towards a Power BI integration that's going to be able to do something similar.
Yeah.
Was that something that you explored as well as to Power BI as an alternative?
We work with Power BI, clients use Power BI a bit. I prefer Elastic. It's open source.
Yeah.
Doesn't cost us anything.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, it does. We pay for it to be hosted because we want to rely on their security mainly. But it's whereas Power BI tends to have those two sections. You want to either create or you want to look at it. Same. That's the GUI. If you press edit at the top of that, you're editing the actual dashboard. We can then share this to anyone without having Power BI. It works in iframes, and we're going to put the data onto those screens there to show live data. Much because it's open source, because it's not a Microsoft product. We're not worried about licensing and sharing that.
Could you look at Bright Gauge at all?
We used to use Bright Gauge.
Because we used to use Bright Gauge, and I think we missed that now.
Yeah. Well, that, to be honest, that is why we ended up looking at this.
Yeah.
Because actually, Halo is one of the other things that I should have mentioned but didn't, is that with the Halo dashboards, that's great. That's Halo data, but that's not all the data we want to look at. Exactly. And so Jake is working on. We're not showing that today, are we? Jake's working on our Zoom integration. So our Zoom calling, we use Zoom phones. So I want to see on here how many calls we're getting, how long are people taking before we're answering the phone.
Yeah.
And that needs to go on here as well.
Yeah.
Well, we couldn't.
And that's why I
do
think
that.
we would be sitting there kind of thinking to be by Bright Gauge again, but we don't want to get down that path. We want to, but yeah.
They don't have Halo integration.
I was going to say, does Bright Gauge go?
No, but you know what I mean? It's that kind of product.
Yeah. But
I mean, from a Halo perspective on dashboards, even the fundamentals are missing. I was talking to Morgan last week about the fact that for every single widget you want, you have to write a separate report.
That's the thing,
yes.
to modify that, and it can take ages, it takes hours, because the schema is not great in the sense you can't identify the fields easily. So just trying to write a SQL command is cumbersome.
Yes, we're now looking at iframing this back into Halo.
Mm-hmm.
So because we want our engineers spend their time in Halo. We don't want them coming out, and they won't come out to do this. And this is only for me and Jake to use at the moment while we're developing it. But we will look to put it back into Halo so that it's visible to everyone in there. So once we're basically getting the data, we're sanitizing it and making sure it's valid and relevant to people, and then pushing it back in as a dashboard.
From a perspective of how long to get this to that point where we've got the data out, how many hours of time did it take?
What development time?
Yeah.
2 months.
What, pretty solid?
I'd say 60%, 50%. Yeah, it's hard to quantify.
So it was all getting the data in there, out. So it was because, like we showed in the previous slide, it gives you 2,000 fields for every ticket. Imagine that's reasonable amount of data. And so there was a lot of sort of, we've chosen that field. Actually, I think it's a different field that we need. So we need to cross that field out, get a new one out. Jake would then write the code to bring it in. Once it's in here, once it's as an index in here, I've deleted this and remade it a few times. It takes about 20 minutes. No time at all, really. Just choose what you want on these, and it shows the data. So that is just that initial building that pipe, and it is called a pipeline. building that pipeline from our server, polling Halo, getting all the data in, chewing through it, and then sticking it into Elastic.
Any bottlenecks with your polling?
We haven't noticed any. No, I mean, we did.
As it gets busier and it gets heavier and it gets, are you going to start hitting issues with? Because like with Microsoft, everybody first was like, yeah, we can pull everything from Microsoft. Then they started throttling stuff.
Yeah.
There's got to be a time when Halo's going to go, well, hold on, you're pulling too much from us. We've got to throttle connections.
Yeah, and on they do throttle the SQL connection. So we did do this on SQL first, and they throttled that to I think 5,000 returns records.
Yeah.
Basically.
Just do it through the API instead.
So we did it through the API instead, and they might be throttling that, but we actually don't hit them that hard, do we? We hit
What
them
I do is every 5 minutes I grab the IDs of the tickets that are modified in the last 5 minutes. So in the last 5 minutes, you can only modify 100 tickets, maybe less, as a maximum. So normally it's a lot less than that.
Yeah.
So once you've got those IDs, then you can call on the API. But I rate
give me
them.
an update on this one.
Yeah, but I rate them at that, so I don't hit the API with 100 at a time.
Yeah.
I do it a few at a time.
Could you not do it the other way around? Like push out through webhooks?
You can, but I don't think you can customize them to get the data.
I think you can.
Yeah,
You can customize
I
the
did
payload
try. I
that
did
gets-
try
that
it.
gets pushed out.
Yeah, it's just the there's other. It's not just the tickets I wanted. There's a lot of other stuff that I've taken that's not documented.
Yeah.
So it's not really supported by Halo. So I kind of like went my own way with that. But yeah, it probably some of it is possible webhooks, but not all of it.
Yeah, because I think we're going to go through the Zementum stuff. Zementum's integration from Halo in terms of pushing data from Halo into Zementum is all through their webhook. So it's at ticket change, site change, user change, or new, and so there's a series of them. It doesn't do it because products don't push.
Yeah.
So not everything is covered, but there are quite a number of them. Every time it changes, it pushes.
Sure.
That's not that the webhooks and that's extensibility and the fact that we can link it to something like N8N. It means that actually that's one of the another reason we went with Halo, just because its ability, like I said earlier, to play nice with others.
Yeah.
And it does have webhooks. If we want to do something clever with a webhook from Okta, for example, Okta notices a new user, you can relatively easily get Okta to push a webhook to Halo, and Halo can create a new user. It's not that difficult. So another reason we went for it. So that's that dashboard, and we actually, this is a dashboard we do actually use at the moment, but there are a few more that we're sort of writing. Same data in the background, we're just writing a new dashboard, and like I said, it takes 20 minutes to produce that in a way that we want to see it. Now I think Jake, I've hijacked you.
Sorry. So this is basically a live mapping view of where all the tickets are currently being opened. So this will update. So to produce this, I pull the site data from the site API and then grab those IDs and then use the Google Maps API to get the long and lats of the location of the user and then push that back to Elastic to match up the ID of the ticket. It's just a great way of actually displaying the tickets and where they're. So if I zoom in.
So because we're a global company, like I said, it is actually quite handy to see where are all our tickets.
Resourcing.
So there's metadata of location data.
We did that.
No, the location data doesn't exist. I had to create that.
Okay.
So it's basically based on, so the address information for all the users is in the API. So I pulled that and used the IDs of the user with the address, and then combine that with the Maps API, the Google Maps API, to get long and lats, and then push that back to the ticket. So the ticket's got that information, and hence then I can display it on a map view. And you can just drill down and you can view the stats on the pins. Each pin represents a ticket, a live ticket. It's just quite a nice way of viewing data.
You can see we've got a lot of synergy tickets.
Yeah.
We do a lot of internal work. So that's it's a lot. We should probably work everything. We treat everything as a ticket, pretty much. not the ConnectWise way where you're meant to I need to go to the toilet and put a ticket in, and you can,
The red circle's the king.
yeah.
The red circle, that's like a king going.
yeah.
My crown, I'm building a ticket.
But yeah, you can see we're quite busy in New York at the moment. So what I like about this is live. These are actual tickets, so these are being worked on, and so this is a live view of how busy we are at the moment with open tickets in New York.
Can you drill into those pins and?
Yeah, so it's got
to actually see?
No, not yet. No, but you can do that actually, because of the way they write the URLs in Halo, because it's basically the API. We can just stick that ID at the end, ticket ID, and it will press a button and it will launch that ticket.
It's based on open tickets then, it's not a time window, is it just all open tickets?
This is all open.
Open tickets until they get closed. When they get closed, they come off the board, to another index. It's a whole different dashboard as well. So I can't show you that because it's got too much information on them.
Yeah, so we're playing with that, and we're trying to develop it and see what cool stuff. Basically, this whole thing is about the cool stuff you can do with the data within Halo.
So this, essentially here, what we're looking at. So we're using here, we're using machine learning to predict spikes in activity or times where there is a lot of tickets being logged on the system. So down here, this is the current data. So this is spikes in tickets over previous months. And you can set the severity there to different. So at the moment, it's set to critical to display highest amount. You can see here that averages are up there. So what that allows you to do is actually plot that into a graph that will predict when the spikes will happen. Again, it takes out that kind of guesswork and instinct from people that previously would have known when it was a busy period. This is actually based on the data itself and actually should be proven to actually be more accurate.
So what we're planning on with this, as Jake says, is when we're actually a medium-sized MSP now. So it's not as when you're I've run my own MSP for 20 years. So when you're a bit smaller, you just know when your client's going to be busy. You know that there's a fair, you know when there's that, they're on holiday, they're going to come back from this break and it'll be busy. So as you get bigger and bigger, you actually sort of lose that, and you shouldn't be. That shouldn't be in your head. You know, you have to start finding other ways of upping the workforce and service desk, for example, and maybe getting people to work late who are in London to support New York or something like that. So with this, what we're aiming at here is that we can use machine learning, the data, to decide when we need, so-and-so in the service desk in the UK needs to work New York hours because New York is going to be really busy next week. You know, we can make that sort of decision based on data rather than just knowledge that's in some account manager's head. Is what we're aiming at. And that'll be. I mean, we still know when you know the account managers know. But as we grow, this will become more and more important for us to make real business decisions about workforce and what they're doing at what times.
And where they should be based.
And where they should be based, exactly. Yeah, and that's
Is that built into it? Or what did you have to do because the machine learning stuff? Is this all part of it, or
It's part of Elastic. It's native to Elastic, but you've got to have the data. You put the data in an index, and then it learns. It looks back, and it has to produce that job. And then display it that way.
And I think you know, we obviously need a developer as well, but Elastic is about 70 quid a month.
Yeah.
So this is not an expensive tool. Very, very good value. And you can self-host it as well. If you want to have this running on your own machine and looking at indexes, a lot of people do that. And you can.
But you need the development.
You don't necessarily know. You can throw any data at it.
To get to where you guys have got,
Yes.
you need someone with
Yeah, and so
the
if,
ability to build.
and if one thing that we are looking at doing is helping other MSPs and providing it as a service. That, okay, so you want this, you want to look at your data in the same way that we're using it.
Yeah.
Well, Jay can help with that, and there'll be some sort of T&M for that, and we can do that. Yeah.
Because the funny thing is, like, a lot of it is going to be similar, but then there's custom field. Everyone's going to create custom fields depending on their needs. So,
Yeah, well, that's why
When
when,
records you need, you're gonna be.
yeah, that's why I use the template, because you can literally just add or remove, hit save, and it's done. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're going to package this, and is the plan to sell it to other MSPs, or is it kind of?
Yeah, well, we're. I was hoping Halo would be here,
Sell it back to Halo.
and be able to see that we're doing some quite useful things. Lots of people, I think, would find this useful.
Yeah.
And we can build an integration. We can actually build a sort of one-click. Here's, show us the fields you want, and we'll build that, and then Halo can use it, and Halo's users can use it as well. And we can have that conversation with Halo, but we can also have that conversation with individuals as well. If people want this sort of thing in their own system, and we can quote on that and say, Jay can go and install it.